Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you've just joined us from YouTube, you're awesome. And also, Facebook is just gone live. Hello, everybody. I'm here on Facebook. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just letting everybody get settled in, everybody to jump in and jump on. Let me know if you're here. If you're new, let me know where you're from. If you're back again, let me know how your day was yesterday. What'd you manifest? Share below. Remember, we're always manifesting. It's never not a day or a moment that we're not manifesting. And I'm going to actually explain that because I think a lot of people use that and misunderstand it as a way in which to fear their lives and fear what they're manifesting and all of this kind of stuff. But we're going to actually talk about three very, very important things today. And we're going to deep dive. If you've noticed or if you've watched the last three videos, we've really drilled down into beliefs and what a belief is, how to create one, how beliefs limit us, and how all beliefs are limiting in one way, shape, or form. Right? Hi, Sarah. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for jumping on. So, again, just before we start those three areas. So, again, if you just jumped on, talk about three separate but very connected things, which is emotions and feelings. Yes, they are different, but they're also connected. And Neville seems to differentiate what he means when he's talking about them. Okay? And then, but it's important to know that what emotions are as well and why they're different from feelings, okay? So, and then we're going to talk about intensification. This is an actual technique from the work of Neville on how to amplify not just your feelings, but also something else. And we're going to talk about that. And that's going to actually help you quicken your manifestations. And then three is to talk about letting go or detachment. And they do operate a little bit differently. And I think there's a load of misunderstanding and unnecessary stress on what detachment is. And we're going to deep dive into that. But welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. Sit down, go grab some coffee. Grab your favorite earphones just so you can hear my voice in your ears. Why not? So, again, we only have one more day left. And I'm using this to also, one, obviously introduce you guys to the Wondr Emporium, but also to launch group coaching. So in the description on Facebook, you should be able to see a link that gives you a link to a lead page, and there you just put your name and your email, and that says, hey, I'm interested in group coaching. It's becoming popular. We're actually getting a lot of interest as soon as I already said that we were starting. So we are only, basically, we're going to max that out at about 8 to 10 people. So we already have a handful. So make sure that you get your interest in, and yeah, get in touch. So again, that's going to be a link here, and there's also a link here on the Facebook group. So, all right, let's get started. Let's talk about Three Pigs. Hopefully you're familiar with that story. Again, it's another story from Grimm's fairy tales. And it's a metaphor. I mean, obviously, everybody knows it's a metaphor. There weren't really three pigs, right? But it's a metaphor for emotions, because what you see is the wolf, which is representative of anything that we're dealing with that feels out of our control, that feels bigger than we are, right? And so the first two pigs represent what tends to happen, okay? Hey, son, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome back. And so what you end up doing is you end up reacting, right? And you end up reacting to your environment, and you end up reacting from fear, or you react from anxiety. So then that becomes your filter, okay? That becomes the way. So fear is your filter now, not fear and then focus, or fear and clarity, or fear and passion, or fear and a plan. Fear doesn't plan. Fear just reacts, right? So I need you to hear that, because there's a major difference, okay, in the way in which we understand fear. Because fear is never planning anything. Fear is about something happens, I react to it immediately, okay? So that's the state of fear. The state of fear, remember, as we've talked about before, is only there. Its only dedication to you is protection. It doesn't want to move anything beyond itself. Fear doesn't want to become love. Fear doesn't want to become, clear thinking. Fear is what it is, okay? So this is the story of the three pigs, because basically it shows the first two who are reacting to the outside threat. And that's all they're doing. They're just reacting. And then what does the threat do? It blows their house down. What is a house in the esoteric mystical sense? A house is anything that represents your state, which means your way of seeing things through the lenses of your accepted beliefs, okay? So, and by the way, you can use this technique of understanding a house and then start watching movies and reading books and start analyzing things through this lens that houses represent your state. Okay, houses always represent. So again, the first two pigs, they were in a state of fear. They were in a state of reaction. They were in a state of, oh, the big bad wolf is a threat. But then the third one is a little bit more calm and there's a little bit more emotional regulation going on. We're gonna talk about that today, okay? And they were able to build a strong house. Well, this actually reminds me of the biblical story about one person who built their house upon the rock and the other person who built their house upon the sand. Again, houses are representative and a biblical metaphor for your state. What are states? Your accepted beliefs that have hardened into fact and become a way that you see the world. Your body of beliefs, okay? So again, the person who built their house upon the rock, right, which is a metaphor for faith, is the person who actually continued on and was able to actually weather the storm. Okay, and so remember, this is not just some kind of idealistic idea that's being put out there so that you can feel good about yourself, right? That's part of it, obviously. Yes, I want you to feel good about yourself. But what I'm trying to say is that there's power behind this. There's power in realizing that if you actually get good at this, that you can put yourself on a firm foundation of faith, that no matter what comes your way, you can weather it. That means you might still have to go through it, but you have the tools and strategies, right? I mean, like the third pig, he still had to actually deal with the fact that there was a wolf, okay? But he was able to weather it. He was able to get through it, okay? And so this is all about understanding emotions and the impact of what those emotions do and how to choose them and so on and so forth, okay? Now, the reason why I say emotions, because a load of people get really hypersensitive and make sure that, for example, it's feelings that we're talking about, okay? Because Neville says the feeling is the secret. But again, Neville's writing cryptically, okay? Because he doesn't mean feeling as in I feel good, I feel happy, right? I feel excited. That's not what he's talking about at all. Really what he's doing is with the word feeling, he's giving you a process, except he does explain it actually, okay? He does say, listen, when I mean feeling, I don't mean emotion, but we're still gonna talk about emotions for a second, okay? Because I want you to know why he says feelings, because feelings in and of themselves cannot and will never, ever be able to operate without emotions. You need that. And even Neville says in one of his other works that emotions are essentially like your body is an emotional filter, not a feeling filter, an emotional filter, okay? And so there is a difference here that we need to tease out. Why? Because the better that we understand this, the more that we can grasp how we can manifest, okay? Thank you, Deborah. So let's see. This is on Facebook, by the way, for those that are on YouTube. Okay, so would you agree that many people may have lots of their foundations on the rock, but parts would be on sand for specific areas? Okay, so basically she's saying that, you know, is it possible that some people have certain areas of their lives that are on the rock and then certain areas of their lives that are on sand? And I think that's a good point. So when I say that you have to build your life, right, and I'm saying your body of beliefs, your state, right, on the rock, that does mean that you can go through life and pretty much neglect certain other areas of your life. Okay, so example, if you're hyper-focusing on trying to manifest somebody back or manifest an SP or whatever it is to you, right, then maybe to you, finances don't matter as much. So then, but then that means one of your areas of your life is built upon, okay, I'm going to manifest this back, okay? Or I'm going to manifest an SP, and you're in the state of loving person, right? You're in the state of loving wife or loving husband or whatever it is that you're trying to embody, but then you forget to embody, okay, I have a lavish, steady income. So then, yes, you can actually be in two different states at one time. And I mean, Neville says it this way. He says, listen, we're always falling in and out of states throughout every day. The problem is people hear the phrases like that and they get fearful because they're like, wait a minute, I don't want to fall out of any states. No, you should, because you want to change you want to change your beliefs, right? So he isn't saying it as a threat. He's saying it as a matter of fact, right? There's going to be things that, like, for example, You might grow up with, and I'm being really stupid with my example here, but you might grow up with a fear of snails. And then you go to a snail farm and hang out with snails and you find out, oh, wow, snails aren't really a big threat. And then you change your state, okay? You've changed your body of beliefs about snails, all right? So you need to be always, basically, you need to become a change junkie. You need to become somebody who looks at change as a good thing, not as a scary thing. Not as a threat, but as a way of life. That's how you need to see change, and romanticize it. Okay, romanticizing means, hey, I can actually become a better person. Hey, I can become a better manifester. Hey, I can build a better business. Hey, I can become a better spouse. Whatever it is, you want to look at change as a friend and not a foe. Are you with me? So if you're listening still, just put friend, not foe. Change is friend, but not foe, right? Something along those lines, okay? So again, change is your friend, okay? Because if you don't, then you can't change states. And if you don't change states, then you're staying right where you are, okay? But change has to do also with your emotions. And yes, I'm gonna talk about emotions. And the reason why I say this is, and so, sorry about that. I think I'm reconnecting now. Okay, so you need to spend more time with your emotions. Okay, now in the law of attraction community, and this isn't a slam or anything like that at all whatsoever. Okay, in the law of attraction community, emotions tend to be seen and perceived as hierarchical, right? Okay, hey, if you're in like the depression or anger or sadness, then that's a lower emotion, right? And I think that we need to get away from the idea that emotions in and of themselves are your enemy. They're not. Emotions are indicators, right? And so what I want you to think of, and this is a very powerful way of looking at this, and in my research, I came across this idea that emotions in and of themselves are storytellers. So if you're on and still listening, or if you're doing playback, then put emotions are storytellers. And I really want you to think of this, like switch the idea that some emotions are good, some emotions are bad. That's awful. That's not really like I am not a big fan of toxic positivity. Neither was Neville. This is not about staying in some sort of mental state of like, I've got to be happy all day long. Where I think a lot of people even listen to Esther Hicks, right? Thank you very much, son. Is basically this idea that you need to stay in a state of, well, think about this. If you had your house, which is like, let's say you want to manifest a house, are you always going to be happy every single day already having had it? And I'm not saying you're going to be depressed. You're going to be excited as well. But are you going to sustain that feeling like out of 24 hours a day? No, you're not. Because then what would happen, tired and emotionally drained, and ironically, you'll be so excited it leads you to depression. Okay? So you don't want to do this. Okay? So sometimes when you and people have asked me several times, do you need emotions to create scenes? No. Because remember, and this leads to the next part. So if we've talked about emotions, and the first step is that you need to your emotions. Do not see them as enemies at all, whether they be good or bad. In fact, when you call them good or bad, you're actually framing how you're going to experience them, right? So well, then how does that work practically? Okay, so then if let's say you're having a bad day, okay, and you're either angry or frustrated or you feel hopeless. Okay, well, and then you recognize it. Oh, hey, I'm feeling hopeless today. Oh, so right as soon as you realize that, then that becomes a moment of awareness for you. As soon as you realize that, though, by the way, you then have the ability to change it. Okay, because if you don't, right, what we just said, and so just wrote in here, is that emotions themselves are storytellers. That means they're telling a story. Okay, and that story is you experiencing that particular moment through that lens. Okay, so if you're like, I'm hopeless, and you realize it, change it. Neville says, listen, don't waste a second in being like, I just want to complete this. I want to tell my story. I want to keep telling my hopeless story, right? Neville says, no, stop it. Like, because what'll happen is you're going to create an addiction to that story, and you're going to live it out more and more and more and more and more and more. This is why he says that. So a lot of times, we even in our culture, we're told and we're encouraged to be like, oh, just talk to me about your drama, right? If you look at half of the reality TV shows today, what are they built upon? They're built upon people's drama, not great things that are happening in their lives. They're built upon people actually going through crap and not knowing how to navigate it, mostly. That's why people keep going back to it. They're like, hey, I'm living vicariously and I'm laughing at other people, or I'm enjoying their own drama, right? And so the problem is that we've actually learned to enjoy our drama rather than give it up, okay? And so I think that's where we need to fully realize and recognize that we can free ourselves. So emotions are in and of themselves not enemies. They don't have to be perceived that way. There's no rule that says that you have to feel depressed and feel even worse because you feel depressed. Just feel depressed. Neville says our body is an emotional filter, and the more that we suppress them, this is the birthplace of disease. These are his words, right? But then that brings us to understanding what feelings are, okay? Because yes, feelings are the secret, okay? And so feelings, and I will get to your comment there, son, thank you, and back to Deborah's as well. Thank you for your comments. And so again, feelings are not emotions, okay? Because the way that Neville defines them, feelings are better understood as self-conviction or convincing. I am convinced, right? Even the biblical author Paul says, I am convinced, right? That's what you want to do. So I am convinced I'm a billionaire. For I am convinced I have a yacht. For I am convinced I have an SP in my life. For I am convinced that I don't pay taxes. Whatever it is, right, that you want to do, you have to convince yourself. Now, how does emotions or feelings play into that? Well, that's where Neville says feelings are the secret, right? Because you use the feelings to get you to be convinced, okay? If you're still using feelings today and you're trying to manifest from feelings and you're still doing it day after day after day and you're like, I'm in it, but you're not convinced, you could do that for the next 50 years and you're not going to manifest that thing. The feelings have to lead you to self-conviction. They have to lead you to a place where Neville calls brazen impudence. So go check out my video on that, and I'm going to do more on that as well. Because really, think about it this way. Brazen impudence is this idea of non-negotiable mentality. Okay, so say that again, right? Non-negotiable mentality. Can somebody write that down, right? Because this is what you have to become. Like, I am married with my SP, right? And there is no other option. You've got to burn your boats. You've got to say goodbye. You've got to give up the old story. And to do that, you've got to be stubborn. You got to be mentally stubborn and say, I have this new vehicle. I have this person in my life. I am happy, right? And that's okay if it leads you to anger sometimes, because even the Bible says, in your anger, do not sin. What does that mean? In means within, inside, your anger, do not sin. Sin means give up on your desire, okay? Don't give up on your desire. Go ahead and feel the spectrum of all your emotions. You're not going to hear this, by the way, from many coaches, because they'll say, oh, no, reject the bad emotions. That's actually awful advice. And I mean, this is coming from somebody who has studied human emotion and so on and so forth, right? That's really bad. And there's nowhere actually where Neville is actually discouraging you, because he even says, he goes, if you're angry, feel it. Just go. Just blow up, he says. Those are his words, right? And so, let me take a second here. Recently, I'm experiencing bodily emotions all but of a sudden, especially waking up from a sleep. My subconscious is pushing hard on something which I don't want to experience. Yes. So you're going to hear something that you're not going to hear in a load of manifestation circles. And I would say you've got to not deny those feelings. You've got to feel the feelings, or you got to figure out what those feelings are pointing to. It could be a memory that you've been holding on to. It could be a perspective that you've hardwired into your brain from the world, from a handful of past experiences, from your parents, your childhood, right? And so ask, why am I feeling this way? 1, 2, why am I pushing it down, right? Because again, that means there's something there that wants to be healed, okay? But that you're afraid to allow it to heal because you don't know what's beyond it, okay? So that's where you need to do the actual deep work, and this is what I keep calling the deep work, right? Of understanding that emotions are simply arrows pointing you to a memory, a belief, or an emotion that you've locked into, right? And that you've either hidden or you've learned to survive with, as in you've learned to live with it. But now it's saying, hey, we need to heal together, right? And so again, remember, these will form an identity. The more that you hold on to these, or even let go of them, you're forming identities all of the time. That's what a state is. You're in and out of identities throughout the day, right? And so you're always constantly forming identities by what you're letting go of, by what you're accepting, and so on and so forth. Okay, and so you want to get to the point where you're constantly steering and guiding the actual emotions and perceptive lenses. Let's see what Deborah is. So, change as a friend, but it does mean you need to work through so much, and that can be scary. Yeah. So yes, of course, it can definitely be scary, and I'm not trying to, you know, downplay the importance or downplay the pain or downplay anything that you might have to go through to heal. But that's what this is about. Because remember, manifestation is just your experience, really. Like, I mean, this is one thing that I said yesterday, and I need to re-say it again. Because people really, like, we love labels, but sometimes we don't understand the labels. And so the labels that we use sometimes are even more confusing than helpful. So when people use manifestation, it just means, what are you experiencing? So are you experiencing luck? Because that means you have manifested being a lucky person, right? So then you're experiencing luck. Have you manifested a new house? Then you've now experienced what it means to be a house owner. Okay, so manifestation is simply just life experience because you're manifesting every second of every day. And yes, you're manifesting in and out of emotions, in and out of beliefs, in and out of memories. Okay, and that's how you create a state. Okay, so Neville says, we're in and out of states every day. So how do you form a state? Well, it comes to how do you form the beliefs that you've accepted as true, and then those are fueled by a strong emotion, and those are also reinforced by another strong memory. Hence why when you use his technique called the state akin to sleep, if you never heard that, think of visualization times 10, right? And you're living in a scene from the first person. You're creating new memories. Those aren't just scenes that you're living. You are literally hardwiring memories, new memories into your mind. So if you're revising a childhood experience, you then think of the childhood experience, and you now point the new memory to the new person that is healed from that childhood experience, right? So this is how you heal, one. But then two, that's also how you create new things in your life, right? With strong beliefs, strong feelings, and strong memory. And you create them tight-knit, right? And then you get to the point where throughout the day, you're controlling your mental diet. That means what kind of conversations are you having about whatever it is that you want to manifest? Because if you're sitting there and you're like, I want my SP to come back. Oh my gosh, he's never going to come back. She's never going to come back. They've rejected me. It's a closed book, right? Well, then that's going to actually not be an agreement. And this is what I say in my other video on macro and micro beliefs, right? And so again, all of these are ways and techniques in which you can build a strong business if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're trying to become a better person, or if you're trying to manifest something back. All of these are techniques that you can use, okay? So again, let's talk about intensification because we have about 8-9 minutes, okay? So intensification and also letting go, okay? So stay on for that one. I know people love to ask about detachment and what does it mean to let go and how can I let go and so on and so forth, okay? So make sure that you stay on for that. And also, again, intensification means, well, Neville uses it in two different ways. He talks about intensification, and he says intensify it to the nth degree. And I'm going to tell you the story that he actually uses that in. And then also he talks about drenching your subconscious, okay? So intensification means two things. There's two things that you're doing with the intensification technique, okay? You're intensifying the feelings. Now, what are feelings? Feelings are not the same as emotions. Feelings are the interpretations of emotions. Are you with me? So that's why he says feeling is the secret. Because again, you have a strong emotion, great. It's not enough. You need the feelings which are interpreting those emotions. Okay? So when you go in and create the scene, you're going in with a certain emotion of, let's say, excitement or whatever it is. That's the emotion. But then what you're feeling or the mood that you're creating is the feeling. So that's why he says, oh, catch the mood. What he's saying is that atmosphere that you're living in and that you're breathing in and that you're creating in your mental space, in your mind, in that scene, you are now turning it into an atmosphere. You're turning it into a mood. Okay? And so now it's not just that you're the happy one. It's like everybody in that scene is happy with you. If you're excited, it's not you that's just excited. It's everybody's excited with you. That's what Neville means when he's talking about a mood. And I'm going to do a video on that today. So be on the lookout explaining what he means by mood. So again, mood means you're taking that one emotion and you are amplifying it. And so he tells the story of a guy who actually used the emotion of being annoyed, right? And and Neville even says, listen, you know, I received this letter and this guy used annoyance. And if you're a person who needs to use annoyance to manifest what you want, then go ahead and use it, right? And so what he did is the guy wanted to get some extra money because he wanted to paint his house. And so basically what he did is he did a couple things. So he imagined himself taking a shower and there's a window right next to his shower and he looked out and he could still see the painting guys there and he was so annoyed because he wished that they were done, right? And then he also imagined that he got a big fat check, right, from his actually he didn't even specify what it was, because that big fat check was going to actually, and he didn't even specify an amount, right? And so he ended up getting I think it was $20,000 cash, because he didn't want to. The actual scene, check this out, is that he actually created himself getting annoyed, having to stand in a long line at the bank. So check that out. He actually manifested never having to go to the bank, because he actually manifested them giving him $20,000 in cash. Okay, so again, he used annoyance all across the board to get what he wanted, and that actually got him his house painted, right? So again, you can use any emotion to get what you want. That's why you can't really accept the idea that some emotions are bad and some are good. You can use any emotion you want to get what you want, but do it in a way that serves you and your end desire, right? Are you with me so far? So again, intensification, and in that particular story, he says, listen, you need to intensify it to the nth degree. So this is actually a technique. Okay, to the nth degree means you need to intensify, 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 intensify. So here's a tip from NLP that I'm giving a lot of my clients, okay? And so what I want you to do is, remember, you're not creating a movie scene, you're doing this from the first person. But what I want you to do is, once you have that scene locked in, okay, from the first person, I want you to then create a little like TV knob or a little button knob, whatever makes sense to you, a dial that you can turn up, and I want you to see that on the lower right, and I want you to be able to feel it. And I want you to feel like the little plastic ridges around a typical knob that you would feel anyways, right? And then every single time that you want to feel something, you intensify it. And then you intensify it. And then you intensify it. And then when you think it's too much, you intensify it even more, right? Now, here's the point. If you do just that and you walk away, you have not impressed the subconscious. If you do that and walk away and then it feels like, whoa, that just happened and I remember it happened, then you know that you've impressed the subconscious. Okay? And so if you haven't done it the first time, do it again. Do it again. And then if you haven't done it tomorrow, do it again. Do it again, right? And you would keep intensifying it until you get to the point of self-conviction. I believe I am it. Are you with me? So again, that's intensification. That's drenching the scene. But remember, drenching the scene isn't just drenching the scene with your emotions. It's drenching the scene with your feelings to the point of conviction. So that's why I said there's 2 levels to intensification. Okay? So you have to do it to the point of conviction. If you don't, then you keep working on it. Keep doing it, right? Neville calls that the 6 days of creation. Okay? And then there's going to come a day where you're going to be like, I don't need to do it anymore, or I don't care about it anymore. I know what's going to come, right? You're just going to be confident. And so again, that 6 days is symbolic, right? That 6 days for you might take 5 minutes. It might take 4 weeks. It might take 2 weeks. It might take 3 days. Don't give it a time, because you're giving it to yourself here, so there is no time. Time, by the way, according to quantum physics, is just a process between things, not a moment by moment thing that we use to measure, right? So that's intensification. That's drenching. The last one, let go. Okay, so this is very important. I know a lot of people are going to want to talk about this. I'll do probably 4 or 5 videos on this, because I think it's an important and very misunderstood, and unfortunately so misunderstood that I think people end up hurting themselves in the process of manifesting. Okay, so I hear a lot of people, whether you're into Neville or just basic manifestation or not, that you have to let go of your desire, the one that you actually want to manifest. I think this is actually really bad advice. Okay, and again, you're going to hear most people saying it, desire, right? I disagree with that, because what's the end experience? Feeling. You'd be feeling excitement. Now, why would you want to let go purposefully of excitement? That doesn't make sense to me, right? And I'm not saying stay in excitement all day long. Remember, I'm not for that, right? But that doesn't mean that every time you think of it that you don't get excited, or that, no, I need to let it go and I need to forget it. That doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you want to remember a memory, because that's what you've created, more and more and more and more that was good and positive and excites you? Of course. So you are never detaching. You are never detaching from your desired end. Never. But that doesn't mean that you're staying in emotional fatigue or affective fatigue, right? So hear that, but also hear that loads of people get this wrong. And I don't care how established they are in the manifesting community, this is extremely not helpful. okay? Because people are thinking, I need to push it away. So then as soon as you create the scene, you walk away and you're like, no, I'm going to forget it. I'm going to forget. I'm going to push it out. No, you don't need to forget it. Hi, Musique. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Make sure you watch it on the last one. No worries. We have tomorrow as well. But you just came in on the tail end. So a quick recap. Do not detach from your desired end, what you want, okay? Then what do you detach from? Well, you do detach from the old story. You do detach from limiting beliefs. You do detach from the old emotions. You do detach from the old memories. Now, just to give a recap, especially if you just jumped on, because I noticed more people joined. Welcome, 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 right? Is that what are you detaching from? You're detaching from three things. You're detaching not just from the memory that is limiting. You're detaching from the emotions and feelings. You're also detaching from the beliefs, okay? Why? Because that's what a state is, okay? So Neville uses the word state. That's just a body of beliefs. So how do you detach from it? Because this is very important. And I know we're going over time, but I hope this is you finding value in this, okay? And I really care about what I do, and I really care about your ability to actually use this. So, and remember, you can use this anywhere in your life, okay? So again, a state is a repeated set of beliefs that are fueled by your emotions, reinforced by your memories. Okay, and feel free to write those down for somebody else, right? So again, a state is a body of beliefs that you've accepted as true that are fueled by emotions, reinforced by memories. Okay, this is why Neville's techniques to manifestation are extremely specific and extremely powerful, because when you use the states akin to sleep, when you're creating the scenes or visualizing in your mind, you're creating new memories. You're not just creating cool scenes where things are going to come into your life. You're replacing old ones if you're revising them or changing them. And then you're actually creating new ones to actually access. Because every time you have a doubt, it's going to come up that it's going to access an emotion. So what you want to do, as soon as a doubt comes up, boom, you know that you've created the scene with the mood of excitement, for example. So then when you come up and you're like, oh, my bank account doesn't say that. Yeah, but you just created a scene where not only you were excited, but all your friends and family and strangers were celebrating with you, right? So then what you do is, as soon as that emotion comes up, and I mean, listen, this takes art, and this takes patience, and this takes time, okay? Because you have to train your mind to be like, nope, I thought this. Like, no, I didn't think that. And then literally gaslight yourself. Like, be ew, I don't believe that. Like, start distancing yourself. And yes, you can use disgust. See how my face just went? There's actually neuroscience proof that shows that if you show disgust towards things, you feel distance between them. Okay? So use disgust as a powerful way to distance yourself from the old person. Like, oh, I don't know them, right? Like almost treat them like they're dirty. Like, oh, that's not me. But as soon as you do that, as soon as you feel something going inside, like, oh, I think I've separated. Okay, and then, oh yeah, but no, I know that happened. I know that memory happened. Okay, so you're rehearsing the memory. So if it happens twice, then guess how many times you're gonna do it? Twice. If it happens 9 times, guess how many you're gonna do it? 9 times, right? So you keep doing this and you keep doing this. Okay. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, share your experiences, Necromancer. Like, I mean, and again, don't gaslight anybody else. I absolutely hate that. Don't do it as a social tool. Only gaslight yourself, right? So, like, make sure that you hear me saying that, right? As a social tool, I don't agree with it. As a self-development tool, 100%. Gaslight yourself, right? Be like, oh, I don't, no. Okay? So again, and when you go into the scene, use that knob that I was telling you to use to amplify your feelings. And remember, you need a strong emotion. Yes, people are going to disagree with me because they take Neville too literally. And he even says, don't do this. Right? You need a strong emotion to have a strong feeling, because you can't have feelings without emotions. And that means you need to be getting really good friends and buddy with your emotions. How do you do that? Check this out. Really, really simple technique. Neville calls this, the I am technique. There's loads of I am meditations. I'm going to have one coming out on YouTube for free very, very soon, right? But also Edward Art Supply Hands, a friend of mine. Check out his I am meditation. And that's really, really good, by the way. I've used it several times, but I'm going to explain to you why it works and the neuroscience behind it and why you should be using this daily, okay? Because how do you become friends with your emotions? Yes, even the bad ones, okay? Because remember, what are we told in Scripture? Love your enemies. So if you think certain emotions are your enemies, what are you supposed to do with them? You're supposed to love them. Even Neville says this. He talks about his vision about having the dweller within, right? And that's his like embodied like fears and weaknesses and misinterpretations and limiting beliefs, right? And he says, listen, I became so determined at the end of my vision that I was just going to do everything to love it intensely for the rest of my life. So remember, manifestation isn't overnight, meaning as in us becoming manifestors, right? So yes, you can manifest stuff within seconds. I've done that. You've done that. I'm sure you have. And if you have, share below and what your techniques were. This is a community, right? So again, back to this. How do you romanticize your emotions? Well, one is you've got to go in. You've got to go in, whether you call it meditation, quiet time, whatever name you want to give it. Make sure that you dedicate a space in your house, in your apartment. If it's 4'4", that's your dedicated space, okay? If it's laying down, make sure you don't fall asleep, right? If you like guided meditations, use guided meditations. I usually prefer not to use binaural beats, right? Or something like that gets you into the wavelength of like theta or something along those lines, right? And so you want to sit and do nothing. Don't go in there and create. Just sit in the void, sit in the darkness, right? And just sit. And one, feel power. Two, feel trust. Okay? Power, trust, and wisdom. Why are these three important? Okay? Power, because God is all powerful. That means anything is possible. So at the end of that, before you create anything, sit in the power. Sit in the possibility that there's no such thing as impossible. Okay? All right? So power, right? And then you have wisdom. Wisdom because we don't get to know the how. And that's fine, right? But wisdom means, hey, I trust you to figure out how this is going to unfold. Okay? And so, right? And so, again, power, wisdom, and I already forgot the other one. So, again, power and wisdom. Oh, crap. I just forgot it. Sorry, guys. Let me see what somebody's saying. Okay, using negative emotions has worked well for me. Draws very strong emotion and feelings. Yes. So I think you might have been here when I was talking about that. If you haven't, definitely listen back. But yes, there's nothing wrong with using negative emotions. Just make sure that those negative emotions are serving your end, right? And that they're also not hurting yourself or other people within imagination, right? Yes, you be like, oh, I can't believe this. It came, but man, it just came this way, or it came too long, or whatever it is. Whatever makes makes sense to you. Again, for me, that doesn't work for me. But everybody's different, okay? And so I want to encourage you to really double down on what works for you, okay? And yes, so son, let's talk about this for a second. I know I'm going over, but I think it's important, is basically when you have negative triggers, those aren't negative emotions, okay? No, wait, because people are going to think, no, those are negative emotions, okay? I think that's a very big misunderstanding. Triggers are beliefs that are fueled by emotions that are reinforced by memories. Triggers are states, okay? Right? And so, again, they're not, triggers in and of themselves are just triggers. We are giving what? We're giving feeling to it. And what is feeling in relationship to emotion? Well, feelings are interpreting the emotions, which are fueling your beliefs. So begin either ignoring them, that's what Neville says, or reframing them. Okay, this is your superpower. Today and after this. But how do you do this? So Neville uses the word love. I'm going to do all I can, he says, and he's very tenacious about this, all I can to love my limiting beliefs for the rest of my life. To the point of what? Not loving them like I love having, no, love them to the point where they're no longer a limiting belief. But what does that really say? So in science, in neuroscience, there's actually a tool. And this is the way that he defines love is the way that I understand as a behavioral scientist, the idea of reframing. Okay, so reframing is giving and looking at something and saying, oh, that looks like something bad, but actually it's something good. Okay, so then like looking at a fear and saying, oh, that's something for me to overcome. That means if I overcome it, I'm better, right? And so it's looking at it from a very positive perspective, not toxic, but looking at it from a very realistic, positive lens and saying, there's something beyond this, right? you actually read all these stories throughout all of ancient history, through literary history, about some like hero going through something and then they have to go slay the dragon, right? But they usually find a treasure as well. And so that's called the hero's journey. If you want to know more about that, read up on the work of Joseph Campbell, right? And so the whole idea is that we're always on a quest. Every day is a quest. And we're always going for the pearl, right? We're always going for that thing that we desire, the end desire. But sometimes that means we need to dig through stuff to get to it, okay? And through that means we need to go through our triggers, okay? And that means we have memories attached to that trigger. So we need to revive those, okay? And we need to start practicing not just in here and out here. Again, that's where I differ, okay? Because again, all science shows that if you create a cohesive relationship between the outer mind and the outer body, you can actually manifest even quicker. Okay, and that's what how do you know when you fully program the subconscious to the new belief? Okay, so I'm not going to tell you what lots of people love to say, oh, well, you'll just know. Like right when you're like, well, how did you know that your wife or your husband wasn't, well, I just knew. That's not very helpful. So you'll know because the memory will feel more real than the old memory will. Okay, that's one. Two, you'll start changing your behaviors. But here's a really, really cool thing that you won't hear from many, many, many other coaches is that you, right as soon as you impress the subconscious mind, even though we're not supposed to know how it unfolds, you'll start seeing things changing in your world, right? And so you'll be able to mark out like, oh, hang on, I saw movement over there. And again, you want to get good, right? You want to get good at actually seeing from the new perspective. So as soon as you actually come out from the scene, you want to get so good that you now start training your thoughts. You start training your reactions. You start training your emotions and your memories and your beliefs to actually interconnect to one another, right? And so you're creating a dynamic, romantic, intimate link between those three things that we've talked about today, right? Your beliefs, your emotions, and your memories. Okay, and you'll know, you will know for sure, because you're going to be like, oh, that feels like a distant thought. So once that moment comes where you start, and this is to Raheem's question, and thank you, SQM. I'm gonna have to check that out for tomorrow. And I apologize if that's messing anybody up as well. But you will know because you will feel distant from the old story. You'll know because the old story will be somebody else's story, not yours. Right? And so you'll feel very, very disconnected from it. And so again, that could happen overnight, right? That could happen in a week, right? This is how people change state. Like I had a brother who had a smoking habit. The next day he immediately stopped, never took one for the rest of his life. He made a decision and that was it. That's what brazen impudence is like, I don't want to do this anymore, and I'm not, and I'm this person now. So then start making decisions in this world from that new perspective. Right as soon as you leave that scene, boom, what would this person do? How would they live that life? And if you have to start talking about yourself from the third person to distance yourself from the old story, do that. That's actually a literary technique from neuroscience. Start talking about the old person as a third person. Then you start talking about the new person as a first person. I am this. I do this. I act this way. I react this way. Ew, I don't react that way anymore. That's not what I would do. That's not what I would do anymore, right? So, I know we went over time like by 15 minutes, but I hope this was helpful. Right? Don't forget that we're kicking off our group coaching. There should be a link in my bio on YouTube. If not, get in touch, leave a comment. And then also on Facebook, it's going to be in the description of what today's talk was about. So make sure you get in touch with any questions. Thank you all for being so supportive. Thank you all for showing up, because when you show up for yourself. And so you're actually dedicating more to changing your future now, because that's what we're doing mentally, right? So, and make sure that you are here tomorrow, 10 a.m. for the last day, right? And again, thank you for all of your support. If you haven't joined the Discord, make sure that you join, and would love to have you there, and check out all the cool stuff that we have in our store there, including our hourly coaching and packages and stuff. So again, thank you all for being awesome. Thank you for jumping on. Much love to you all. And SQM, I will definitely have a look at that. So apologies for that. If you have a Facebook, go ahead and watch the playback there as well. So thank you very much, and be safe in the world, and I will see you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. my time, last day. Thank you so much for being amazing. Have a great day and manifest well.